Imagine your $75,000 wedding ceremony halted mid-vows when your fiancé's ex bursts through the doors waving proof of his infidelity in front of 175 horrified guests. For Leila Karim, this wasn't hypothetical, it was reality. When her groom's obsessive ex tried to destroy their wedding day with fabricated evidence, most people would panic or collapse in tears. But our guest chose strategy instead. I'm Eliza, and today on Wedding Day Justice, we're exploring how this cybersecurity analyst transformed a wedding ambush into the ultimate demonstration of partnership. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't emotional reaction, it's calculated preparation.
Thank you, Eliza. I'm sharing this story because I want others to recognize that digital stalking is real, dangerous, and can be countered with the right approach. My wedding day could have been destroyed, but instead it became proof of our strength together. Let me tell you what happened. I never imagined my wedding would involve a cybersecurity strategy, but sometimes life forces your hand. My name is Leila, and I'm a cybersecurity specialist with a Persian background. My fiancé, Daniel, is a pediatric surgeon with a heart of gold who had the misfortune of dating a woman named Cassandra before me. Their relationship lasted 8 months before he ended things due to her increasingly controlling behavior. That should have been the end of it, but Cassandra wasn't someone who accepted rejection gracefully. In the 2 years Daniel and I had been together, Cassandra had created 12 different social media accounts to monitor us, sent manipulated photos to my workplace claiming I was embezzling funds, and once broke into my apartment while I was traveling for work. She left nothing but a single earring on my pillow, a calling card to let me know she had been there. Daniel had already filed 2 police reports, and we'd secured a temporary restraining order, but the documentation for a permanent one was still processing. The timing couldn't have been worse with our wedding just weeks away. The night Daniel proposed to me on a weekend trip to San Francisco, Cassandra somehow found out and sent him 47 text messages in a single hour. When we announced our engagement on social media, 3 of my bridesmaids received anonymous emails with doctored photos suggesting Daniel was cheating on me. The photos were amateurishly edited. Cassandra was technologically persistent but not particularly skilled, which was fortunate given my line of work. "She's escalating," I told Daniel one evening, 6 weeks before our wedding. "The pattern suggests she's building toward something significant." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, his eyes tired after a 12-hour shift at the children's hospital. "I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. Should we postpone? Maybe elope?" I took his hand and squeezed it firmly. "No, we're not letting her dictate our lives, but we are going to be prepared." That night, I made 3 important calls. The first was to my cousin Armin, who runs a security firm. The second was to my best friend Mina, a family law attorney who could expedite our restraining order. The third was to my mother, who immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "Doctoram," she said, using the endearment that meant my daughter in Farsi, "a Persian wedding is not just a ceremony, it's a fortress of family. We will protect what is ours." Over the next few weeks, we developed what my brothers jokingly called Operation Wedding Shield. We hired 4 plainclothes security personnel at $3,500 for the day. We installed a discreet camera system at the venue for $1,200. We created a special signal system among key family members and the wedding party. We even ran social media disinformation, posting about venue changes and false wedding dates on accounts we knew Cassandra monitored. The most important element was our honey trap. With help from my cybersecurity colleagues, we created a digital trail that Cassandra couldn't resist following fake text messages between Daniel and his best man, discussing a pre-wedding tradition that would happen precisely at 2:00 p.m. in the garden courtyard of our venue. We knew from her previous patterns that she monitored Daniel's friend group closely, and sure enough, she took the bait. Meanwhile, we prepared our families. My Persian relatives were briefed on the situation, and they rallied around us with fierce protectiveness. Daniel's family was initially shocked, but quickly became our strongest allies. His mother, a normally reserved literature professor, suggested we add a special section to our vows about overcoming obstacles together, a subtle acknowledgement of what we were facing. The night before our wedding, my mother and aunts performed the traditional soirée agd preparation, arranging the elaborate spread that would serve as the backdrop for our ceremony. The mirror of fate, the candelabras representing brightness, the honey for sweetness, and all the symbolic elements that had been part of Persian weddings for centuries. As they worked, they spoke blessings in Farsi, weaving protection into every fold of fabric, every arrangement of flowers. Cheshami hasud dor, my grandmother murmured as she placed the mirror, may the evil I stay away. I watched them transform the space and felt a strange calm settle over me. We had prepared everything humanly possible. The venue cost $28,000, the catering another $22,000, the flowers $8,000, the photographer $5,500, the videographer $4,200, the band $6,800, and security $3,500. My dress, a fusion of Western elegance and Persian detailing, had cost $7,200 after customization. All told, this day represented nearly $100,000 and countless hours of planning. But more than the money, it represented our future, a blending of cultures, families, and lives that deserved to begin without the shadow of someone else's obsession. I slept soundly that night, not because I believed nothing would happen, but because I knew that whatever did happen, we were ready. The morning of our wedding dawned with that perfect Northern California crispness, clear skies with just enough chill to make the later warmth feel earned. I woke up in the bridal suite, surrounded by my closest friends and female relatives. My mother brought me tea with rose water, a tradition from her childhood in Tehran. Today you become a wife, but you have always been a warrior, she said, kissing my forehead. The women in my family don't believe in hiding strength behind softness, they believe in wielding both simultaneously. My phone buzzed with a security update from Armin. All systems green, perimeter secure. We had established a communication protocol where he would send hourly updates, with any actual issues being relayed through coded language about catering changes so as not to alarm me unnecessarily. As my bridesmaids helped me into my dress, an ivory creation with delicate gold embroidery that echoed traditional Persian patterns, I felt a momentary tightness in my chest. Not fear, exactly, but awareness. Today would either be the perfect beginning or a very public battle. Either way, I was dressed appropriately. Persian brides have always dressed like queens going to war or celebration with equal readiness. My maid of honor, Netta, noticed my expression. Hey, everything okay? Just running through contingencies, I admitted. She squeezed my hand. You've literally built firewalls that protect government data. This wedding is the most secure event in the county today. Plus, she added with a wink, your brothers look surprisingly good in suits, and they're stationed at every entrance like very handsome guard dogs. That made me laugh, breaking the tension. My 3 older brothers had indeed taken their roles as protectors very seriously, positioning themselves strategically throughout the venue, their expressions a mix of wedding joy and vigilant determination. At noon, the makeup artist finished her work, transforming me into a more luminous version of myself. My mother placed my grandmother's diamond earrings on my ears, something borrowed and something old in one. My father arrived to escort me, his eyes widening when he saw me. Mashallah, he whispered, the Arabic blessing that had become part of Persian culture centuries ago. God has willed beauty today. Behind his joy, I could see his concern. My father, who had left everything behind in Iran to give his children freedom in America, who had worked 18-hour days to build a new life, was worried not about Cassandra specifically, but about anything that might diminish this day for me. Baba, I said, using the Persian word for father, we've prepared for everything. He nodded, his expression shifting to one of pride. Yes, we have. Your Daniel is a good man, but you are exceptional, my daughter. At 1:30 p.m., I received another text from Armin. Target acquired. Following bait. Proceeding as planned. My heart quickened. Cassandra had arrived and was heading toward the garden courtyard where she believed Daniel would be participating in a pre-wedding ritual. In reality, Daniel was safely on the other side of the venue with his groomsmen, and the courtyard contained only 2 of our security personnel, posing as guests and ready to intercept her. 10 minutes later, another update. Situation contained. proceeding to secondary phase. I closed my eyes briefly. Phase 1 complete, they had intercepted Cassandra in the courtyard. Now came Phase 2. Rather than immediately removing her from the premises, security would explain that Daniel had moved to the main ceremony space, essentially guiding her exactly where we wanted her to go, at precisely the right moment. At 1:45 p.m., my bridesmaids lined up in their midnight blue dresses, each carrying a small bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. The string quartet began playing a Persian-inspired arrangement of classical music, another blend of my heritage and our American setting. "It's time," my father said, offering his arm. I took a deep breath and nodded. The double doors to the ceremony space would open in exactly 15 minutes. According to our intelligence and the digital breadcrumbs we'd left, Cassandra would make her move just as the officiant asked if anyone objected to our union, a dramatic moment she wouldn't be able to resist, especially since we deliberately included that traditional line in our ceremony program, which had been accidentally emailed to an address we knew she monitored. As we waited for our cue, my father leaned close. You know, in the old country, weddings sometimes involved actual swords for protection. I smiled. "Don't worry, Baba, today our weapons are much more sophisticated." "And much more satisfying," he added with a knowing look. The music shifted to the processional piece. It was time to walk toward my future husband and toward whatever confrontation awaited us. I felt strangely powerful in that moment, like a chess player who had anticipated every possible move of her opponent. The doors swung open, revealing 175 guests seated in white chairs adorned with blue and silver ribbons, the elaborate soffre agged at the altar, and Daniel, handsome in his charcoal suit, watching me with eyes full of love and determination. I squeezed my father's arm once, a silent signal that I was ready for anything. Then we stepped forward into the sunlight, toward Daniel, toward our future, and toward the carefully orchestrated trap we had set. The ceremony space was breathtaking, a perfect fusion of Western elegance and Persian tradition. White chairs faced the elaborate soffre agged, the traditional wedding spread that included mirrors for reflection, candelabras for light, honey for sweetness, and a copy of poetry by Rumi alongside religious texts. Above it all, female relatives held a cloth canopy, while others ground sugar cones over it to symbolize sweetness raining down on our marriage. As I processed down the aisle on my father's arm, I scanned the room with practiced subtlety. Our security personnel were positioned exactly as planned, one near each entrance, one by the AV equipment, and one circulating among the guests. My brothers were stationed at strategic points, looking both proud and vigilant. The videographer, who had been fully briefed on our situation, had positioned secondary cameras to capture not just the ceremony but the entire room. Daniel's eyes never left mine as I approached. In them, I could see both love and resolve. He knew what might happen today, and he stood firm, ready to face it beside me. When my father placed my hand in Daniel's, he squeezed it 3 times, our private code that meant, "I am here." The officiant, a family friend who spoke both English and Farsi, began the ceremony with traditional welcomes in both languages. As she spoke about the joining of cultures and families, I felt a surge of emotion. This was what Cassandra couldn't understand, that what Daniel and I shared wasn't just romance, but a deep intertwining of worlds, histories, and futures. We exchanged our personally written vows, Daniel promising to honor my heritage and build a home where both our cultures would thrive. I promised to stand beside him through all challenges, a line that carried special weight given our current circumstances. We exchanged rings, solid bands of platinum that symbolized unbroken commitment. Then came the moment we had anticipated. The officiant smiled at the gathering and said, "As is tradition, I now ask, if anyone knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." A deliberate 5-second pause followed, during which I felt Daniel's hand tighten around mine. The guests remained silent, many of them unaware of what might happen, though our closest friends and family maintained casual but alert postures. Then, from the back of the ceremony space, came the sound of doors bursting open. Heads turned as Cassandra strode down the aisle, her face contorted with righteous anger, her hair styled immaculately, wearing a cream-colored dress that seemed deliberately chosen to mimic a bridal gown. "I object," she called out, her voice carrying across the shocked gathering. "This marriage is a fraud." Gasps rippled through the guests who weren't privy to our plans. I felt Daniel start to move protectively in front of me, but I subtly held him back. This was proceeding exactly as we had anticipated. Cassandra reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "Daniel was with me 3 nights ago. I have proof, text messages, photos." She held up the phone triumphantly, showing screenshots of what appeared to be intimate messages between her and Daniel. Messages that, unbeknownst to her, had been created through our honey trap operation. Fake conversations she believed she had discovered, but that we had actually planted for her to find. Security began moving toward her, but not too quickly. We needed to let this play out just enough. "Is this true?" the officiant asked, following the script we had carefully worked out with her. Daniel looked at Cassandra with calm eyes. "No, it's not true. Cassandra, you need to stop this now." "Don't lie," Cassandra shouted, her voice rising. "Tell them how you came to my apartment. Tell them how you said you were making a mistake with her." This was the moment. I nodded almost imperceptibly toward the AV technician at the back of the room. He pressed a button, and the white wall behind the soffre agged transformed as a projector lowered from the ceiling. "Cassandra," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I think it's time everyone saw the truth." The projection flickered to life, showing security footage from my apartment building's hallway, footage of Cassandra using a copied key to enter my home 3 months earlier when I was away on business. The timestamp was clearly visible in the corner. The footage then cut to her inside my bedroom, placing something on my pillow, her face clearly recognizable. The room fell completely silent. The video continued, showing a split screen of Cassandra creating fake social media accounts, timestamped to show the systematic creation of profiles designed to monitor our activities. Then came audio recordings of her calling Daniel's workplace with false emergencies to disrupt his work schedule. Finally, the most damning evidence. Security footage from 2 days ago showing Cassandra herself meticulously planning today's disruption, speaking to someone off camera about how she would destroy their perfect day and make him regret choosing her. Cassandra's face drained of color as she realized what was happening. That's not you can't. "Every piece of evidence you're seeing has been submitted to the police and the court," I said calmly, addressing not just her but all our guests. "The restraining order that was already in process has been approved as of this morning. Officers are currently waiting outside, Cassandra, should you choose not to leave voluntarily." On cue, 2 uniformed police officers appeared at the back doors, not entering but clearly visible. "This is a private, sacred ceremony," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "You were not invited. You have harassed us, stalked us, broken into my home, and attempted to sabotage our relationship for 2 years. It ends today." Daniel stepped forward then, his doctor's compassion evident even in this moment. "Cassandra, please get the help you need, but you need to leave, now." The security team closed in, not touching her but making it clear she had only one path, back down the aisle and out the door. For a moment, Cassandra stood frozen, her carefully constructed reality crumbling around her. Then, with a strangled sound of rage and humiliation, she turned and fled, the security team escorting her all the way to where the police waited. As the doors closed behind her, a collective exhale seemed to pass through the gathering. Daniel turned to me, his eyes questioning, asking if I was okay, if we should address what had happened, how to proceed. I smiled at him, then turned to our guests. For those who were unaware of what just happened, I apologize for the disruption. That was Daniel's ex-girlfriend, who has been stalking us for 2 years. We anticipated she might try to ruin our wedding and prepared accordingly. "Now," I said, taking Daniel's hands in mine again, "I believe we were in the middle of getting married." A ripple of nervous laughter gave way to applause, then to cheers. Our families, who had been tense and ready to intervene, relaxed visibly. My mother wiped away a tear, pride evident in her expression. Daniel's father nodded approvingly. The officiant, composed once more, continued, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As Daniel leaned in to kiss me, he whispered, "You are the most extraordinary woman I have ever known." I smiled against his lips, And don't you forget it. Our kiss was met with thunderous applause, not just for the official sealing of our marriage, but for the way we had faced adversity together and emerged victorious. As we turned to face our guests as a married couple, I caught sight of my father, who gave me a subtle nod that contained generations of Persian pride. In that moment, I felt the strength of my ancestors flowing through me, women who had survived revolutions, emigration, and countless challenges to build something beautiful for their families. Daniel and I walked back down the aisle together, husband and wife at last, leaving behind the shadow of harassment and stepping into the light of our future. The confrontation had lasted less than 10 minutes, but its resolution had been 2 years in the making, a testament to patience, planning, and the power of truth over manipulation. The cocktail hour following our ceremony took on an almost euphoric quality. As Daniel and I moved through the garden courtyard, accepting congratulations and well wishes, I noticed something unexpected. Our guests seemed more connected, more emotionally invested in our celebration than they might have been otherwise. The shared experience of witnessing justice unfold had created a unique bond among everyone present. "Did you see her face when the video started playing?" My cousin Jasmine whispered, squeezing my arm. "I've never seen someone literally turn gray before." "I almost felt sorry for her," Daniel's Aunt Margaret said, "until I remembered she broke into your home. That's beyond obsession, that's criminal." Daniel kept me close, his hand rarely leaving the small of my back as we navigated the crowd. "Are you really okay?" he asked during a brief moment alone, his doctor's eyes scanning my face for signs of distress. "I'm better than okay," I assured him. "I feel free, like we've finally closed a chapter that's been hanging over us." He nodded, understanding. "Your planning was flawless. Remind me never to get on your bad side." I laughed and kissed him lightly. "Too late, you already married me. You're stuck with my strategic mind forever now." Armin approached us, professional as ever despite being at a family function. "The officers have taken her statement and issued a formal warning. She won't be within 100 yards of either of you again without facing immediate arrest." "Thank you," Daniel said sincerely, shaking his hand, "for everything." "Just doing my job," Armin replied with a small smile. "Besides, no one messes with my cousin's wedding and gets away with it." As we moved toward the reception hall, I noticed my mother deep in conversation with Daniel's parents. They had bonded quickly during our engagement, but now they seemed united in a new way. The shared experience of protecting their children, creating connections that transcended their different backgrounds. The reception space was magnificent, tables adorned with blue and silver centerpieces, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over the proceedings, and the dance floor ready for the celebration to come. As we entered for our official introduction as a married couple, the cheers were deafening. "For the first time anywhere, I present to you Dr. and Mrs. Daniel and Leila Harrison Ahmadi," the DJ announced, respecting our choice to honor both family names. The traditional Persian knife dance began, my female relatives dancing with the cake knife, playfully refusing to give it to us until we offered payment. Daniel, who had practiced diligently, joined in the dance with surprising skill, much to the delight of my Persian relatives. When he offered a gold coin to my youngest cousin for the knife, she accepted with a dramatic bow that made everyone laugh. During dinner, my father stood for his toast, his accent thickening with emotion as it always did in important moments. When we left Iran, we carried with us nothing but hope and determination. Today, seeing my daughter not only marry a good man but stand strong against those who would harm her happiness, this is the American dream we truly sought. Not just success, but the freedom to create and defend your own joy. He raised his glass. "To Leila and Daniel, may your life together be as strategic as your wedding and as beautiful as your love." Laughter and applause followed, the inside joke landing perfectly with those who understood the reference. Daniel's father spoke next, his academic's precision giving way to genuine emotion. "As parents, we worry. We worry about who our children will love, if they will be treated well, if they will be protected. Today, I can honestly say I have no worries for my son. He has chosen, or perhaps was chosen by, a woman of extraordinary character." He looked directly at me then. "Leila, watching you handle today's unexpected event, With such grace and strength, I am honored to welcome you to our family, though it seems you've been protecting it already. More cheers followed, and I felt Daniel squeeze my hand under the table. The night progressed with dancing, American pop hits mixing seamlessly with Persian music. Daniel and I performed our carefully choreographed first dance, a waltz that transitioned surprisingly into a traditional Persian dance sequence that had taken him months to learn. The joy on my grandmother's face when she saw him execute the steps perfectly was worth every hour of practice. Later, during a brief moment alone at our sweetheart table, I noticed something on my phone. Social media notifications were flooding in. Apparently, several guests had captured portions of the confrontation on their phones, and while they had respected our wishes not to post footage, the story was spreading like wildfire. "We're trending," I told Daniel with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. "Cybersecurity bride traps stalker ex at wedding" is apparently a compelling headline. He looked concerned. "Is that okay with you? I know we wanted to put this behind us." I considered this for a moment. "You know what? It is okay. If our story helps even one person dealing with harassment or stalking to feel empowered to take action, then something good has come from our experience." As the night drew to a close, we performed the traditional Persian mirror and candelabra exit, walking through our families and friends as they held mirrors to reflect light and happiness onto our path. The symbolism felt particularly apt, illuminating our way forward while reflecting back the love and protection that surrounded us. In the luxury car waiting to take us to our hotel, Daniel finally relaxed completely, loosening his tie and letting out a long breath. "That was not the wedding day I imagined when I proposed," he admitted. "It was better." I raised an eyebrow. "Better, really?" He nodded, suddenly serious. "Leila, I've spent 2 years feeling helpless to protect you from Cassandra's obsession. Watching you take control today, seeing our families unite to support us, it showed me exactly what our marriage will be. Not perfect, not without challenges, but faced together with intelligence and determination." I leaned against his shoulder, the adrenaline of the day finally ebbing. It's strange. In Persian culture, there's so much emphasis on the wedding being perfect, without any negative energy. My grandmother would traditionally have burned wild rue seeds to ward off the evil eye. Instead, we invited the evil eye in and defeated it in front of everyone. "Creating our own traditions already," Daniel said with a smile, kissing the top of my head. "The first of many," I agreed, thinking of the future stretching before us, a future no longer shadowed by harassment and fear. As the car pulled away from the venue, I glanced back at the twinkling lights of our wedding. The day had cost nearly $100,000, involved months of strategic planning, required security personnel and legal preparation, and featured a confrontation worthy of a courtroom drama. And yet somehow, it had been absolutely perfect. 1 year has passed since our wedding day, and the story of how we handled Cassandra has taken on an unexpected life of its own. What began as a few social media mentions evolved into a full feature in a major women's magazine about confronting stalking and harassment. I've been asked to speak at 3 cybersecurity conferences specifically about personal security and how digital skills can translate to real-world protection. Daniel and I sit on our balcony overlooking the San Francisco Bay, celebrating our first anniversary with a bottle of the same champagne we served at our wedding. The sun is setting, casting golden light across the water, and I'm reminded of the candles on our Safre Agd, symbols of brightness cutting through darkness. "Have you seen the numbers on the foundation website?" Daniel asks, passing me his tablet. After our story gained attention, we established a small nonprofit that provides resources and support for stalking victims, particularly those facing technology-facilitated harassment. What began as a way to create meaning from our experience has grown into something truly impactful. 5,000 visitors this month, I note, scanning the analytics, and 23 people have applied for the Emergency Security Consultation Program. Daniel nods, his expression a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. It's disturbing how many people need this kind of help, but I'm glad we can provide it. I take a sip of champagne, reflecting on how our wedding day trauma transformed into purpose. My grandmother would call this finding the sweetness in bitter herbs. It's very Persian, the idea that difficulty can be transformed into something nourishing. Speaking of your grandmother, Daniel says with a smile, she called this morning while you were in the shower. She wanted to remind us about the traditional first anniversary blessing she's planning for when we visit next week. I laugh. Did she mention the special eggs she's preparing that will guarantee a child within the year? She did, actually. I didn't have the heart to tell her we're still on our timeline of waiting another year. He takes my hand, his thumb brushing over my wedding ring. Though I have to admit, seeing you with your cousin's baby last month made me reconsider our timeline a little. The conversation drifts to our future plans, the children we hope to have, the traditions we'll pass down, the blend of cultures that will shape our family. It's a conversation we've had many times, but it never loses its warmth or excitement. I got a letter from Cassandra's therapist yesterday. I say, after a comfortable silence, changing the subject to something I've been waiting to share. Daniel's expression grows serious. What did it say? Nothing about Cassandra specifically, that would be confidential. But she thanked us for agreeing not to press additional charges if Cassandra committed to treatment. She said that sometimes, confronting someone with irrefutable evidence of their behavior can be the catalyst for real change. After our wedding, we had made a difficult decision. Though we had enough evidence for criminal charges beyond the restraining order violation, we agreed to a settlement where Cassandra would enter intensive therapy, move to another state, and have no contact with either of us or our families for a minimum of 5 years. It was a choice that some of our friends questioned, but it felt right to us, a balance of protection and compassion. Do you ever regret not pursuing the criminal case? Daniel asks, always attuned to my feelings. I consider this carefully. No, justice took many forms that day: public exposure, legal consequences through the restraining order, but most importantly, we reclaimed our power and our peace. Adding a jail sentence wouldn't have given us anything more. Daniel nods, understanding. This is something we've discussed at length, the difference between revenge and justice, between punishment and resolution. Besides, I add with a small smile, the look on her face when that video started playing was punishment enough. Some moments of reckoning don't need legal enhancement. Daniel laughs at this, then grows thoughtful. You know, when I was in medical school, one of my professors said something that stuck with me. He said that healing isn't just about curing disease, it's about restoring balance. What you did at our wedding wasn't just about exposing Cassandra, it was about restoring balance to our lives. We did it together, I correct him gently. Your trust in me, your willingness to follow an unconventional plan, that took courage. As the last light fades from the sky, Daniel refills our glasses for a toast. To our first year of marriage, may all our challenges be met with the same teamwork, intelligence, and Persian flair as the first one. I laugh and clink my glass against his, and to many more years of creating our own traditions. Later that evening, as we look through our wedding album, beautiful professional photos that somehow managed to capture none of the confrontation, focusing instead on the joy that followed, I find myself lingering on an image of our families together. My Persian relatives with their expressive warmth standing alongside Daniel's more reserved but equally loving family. Different cultures, different expressions, but united in their support. This is what she never understood, I murmur, tracing the photo with my fingertip. What's that? Daniel asks, looking over my shoulder. That love isn't just between two people. It's a network, a system of connections. She thought if she could break our connection, she would win, but she never saw all of this, all these people who form the architecture of our relationship. Daniel wraps his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder to look at the photo. The cybersecurity specialist sees relationships as network architecture. I love it. Professional hazard, I admit with a smile. But it's true, what we have is distributed, redundant, secure by design. And beautifully encrypted, he adds, turning me to face him. Some things are just for us. As he kisses me, I think about the journey that brought us here, from first date to wedding drama to this quiet celebration of our first year together. The path wasn't what either of us expected, but it led us exactly where we needed to be. In Persian tradition, The Safre Agd includes a copy of the couple's holy book, open to a passage about love. But it also includes a book of poetry by Rumi or Hafez, acknowledging that spiritual wisdom and earthly passion are both essential parts of a marriage. One of my favorite Rumi quotes had been printed on our wedding programs. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Our wedding day contained a wound, an intrusion, an attempt to break something sacred. But through that wound came light, deeper family bonds, a platform to help others, and the unshakable knowledge that together we could face anything. As our first anniversary evening draws to a close, I find myself feeling not just love for Daniel, but a profound gratitude for the journey, complications, confrontations, and all. In the alchemy of life, we had transformed a stalker's obsession into an opportunity for growth, service, and an unforgettable beginning to our marriage story. Some Persian weddings conclude with the phrase "Ekbet Bekir," may your end be blessed. But I prefer to think of our wedding day not as an ending at all, but as a beginning that set the tone for everything to follow. Challenging, unexpected, strategic, and ultimately triumphant. Just like marriage itself.
Leila, thank you for sharing your story with us today. What you experienced was truly a violation of what should have been your most sacred day, but your response reveals a powerful truth. Preparation beats panic, especially when facing someone who thrives on creating chaos. This isn't about revenge. It's about refusing to let someone else control your narrative and turning their own tactics into evidence of their deception. I'm Eliza Quinn, and remember, here on Wedding Day Justice, veils off, justice on.